Okay, folks, this is another video. Just caught up with this one by Revolutionary Blackout, and then Jill Stein's a guest, and she says along with Kajma Savant, I guess she's a socialist activist, or I'm not sure, in Seattle, or journalist. They're talking about the Democratic Party and the failures. And she's talking about she made a comment about the lesser of two evils. She's saying at the end, they're not the lesser of two evils. I agree with her except for the one point. She's totally right in everything she's saying about them, except for one little factor. One's the X factor. If it wasn't that one thing, that one little factor, maybe it would be, she'd be totally right. And totally right about it, on point, I should say. But let's see what she said, and I'll tell you after what she's wrong on.
Stein, how are you doing today?
Great. Sorry for the delay. Sorry. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, we
No
appreciate
worries.
you. This is a fantastic panel. We was having a spirited conversation about the failure of the strategy of movement building within the Democratic Party, and that's what the discussion led to. And I asked Shama in the beginning, what would you say to people, because you like the number one villain to the Democrats, because they, especially progressives and all these people who advocate going to the Democratic Party. So what would you say to people who are progressive minded, but they said that we should organize within the Democratic Party, that we should focus it within the two-party system? What would you say to those people?
So is that Shama continuing, or do you want me to jump in here?
I want to get you in, Dr. Stein. I want to get your opinion on people that say that.
Yeah, I mean, to put it bluntly, don't waste your time. I mean, I think we've just seen confirmed over and over again that you can't have a revolution in a counter-revolutionary party, and you will be thwarted at every turn. It would be hard, I think impossible, to do better than what was done in the Sanders campaign, really in 2016, and then again in 2020, in terms of what can be done in the Democratic Party. Volunteers, money, message, field. This was as good a campaign as one can run, and he had a victory basically snatched away from him repeatedly in a rigged election that was admittedly rigged by higher ups in the Democratic Party, by their court case where they were sued at one point for basically vote rigging, and it was established that no, it's a business or a corporation or whatever it is, and that they are not accountable to voters. So in every way imaginable, Sanders did the right thing and was shut down at every turn. And where did that get us? And that's kind of like the ultimate statement about running within the Democratic Party, because when your campaign is shut down, you're left with nothing. And you've built a castle in the sand, it washes away, it's over and done with. You have some token appointment, like Bernie Sanders being appointed to head the budget committee for all the good that did him, and did the movement. Really nothing. It was really, everybody got sheepdog back into this predator party, and that's where they are. And I'll just add, listening to the tail end of your conversation there, at every turn, people have been really pummeled by the Democratic Party. The young people who were so enthusiastic in the climate movement and the climate justice movement that got funneled into, basically into the Democratic Party and became a kind of astroturf grassroots group that was funded by I don't know who, but they were certainly not going to hear anything outside of the Democratic Party. We kept trying to get these young people with the Sunrise Movement to at least consider candidates that were opponents to the Democrats. If you want to move the Democrats, you have to threaten the Democrats, and they wouldn't do it. They didn't want to be disloyal to their funders or their, whatever they were, their leaders, their great leaders. And where are they now? Biden is really leading the assault on the climate with, his giveaways to the Mountain Pipeline, the Willow Project, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is supposed to be the climate bill. It's really a fossil fuels first bill, and just like pull the wool over your eyes when you see what actually goes on there. You cannot create any kind of major renewable clean energy project until you have basically squandered 2 million acres of public lands and 60 million acres of offshore waters for the purpose of fossil fuels or nuclear. You have to do a lot of bad stuff before it begins to move forward at all on fossil fuels. It's really, that bill is a complete outrage, and it's really kind of a microcosm of the best you can expect from the Democratic Party. Things are just falling apart. Or look at, for the peace movement, the valiant progressive caucus that finally, after months, dared to, hand wring and suggest diplomacy in Ukraine. They wound up having to actually retract even that incredibly weak letter that they wrote. So what you see is what you get. Forget the lesser evil. They are not the lesser evil. The Democrats are leading the charge on war, on censorship. They have abandoned their commitments on healthcare, on Medicare for all, even on pharmaceuticals. What they exclaim and pat themselves on the back, their great pharmaceutical achievement is what? To negotiate 10 out of thousands of pharmaceuticals. They're going to negotiate 10 in 2026. Hello, who are you kidding here? It's like you have to be really brain dead or on the payroll somehow, benefiting to buy into the incredibly pathetic propaganda campaigns being waged by the Democratic Party. So, my message is the lesser evil is over. Let's get on with the greater good.
Okay, folks, I'm about to say that we have carbon. Okay, anyways, to add, she's right, except for one thing. There's no lesser evil, except for one X factor. That is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the X factor of all this. And people forget that he was in power, but he was restrained by people. But people were good people. They weren't bad. They're bad, but they weren't that sinister. There are people who they believe in democracy. He doesn't believe in democracy. So when he gets in, he's going to done away with democracy. He's going to get rid of some of the people, some of the career work civil servants, and the experts, bringing his own goons. And he's going to have the authority. He's going to bring in I don't know if he's going to, maybe by executive order, maybe they're going to do, I don't know. He's going to have the authority to ignore anything, any ruling, what the Congress does, or any other, even his what the government's doing, the civil servant doing, or any procedure he could overrule. He's going to overrule it. So he's going to completely get rid of democracy. Any kind of elections, he's going to ignore any kind of, you know what I mean? Any election, any court rulings, they're gonna ignore when he comes in. And what about this election? See, if he wins this and the next election after that, he's not gonna wanna. He's gonna do away with the elections. Actually, he might do away with the elections, in a way. Like he may this time he may not want to leave if he gets in. He might just totally do away with it. And they had a plan actually. Him and Bannon had a plan. If they did the election scheme, the fake elector scheme had worked, they would eventually, once they get in, then they would have do away with elections. They would have to do it on the presidential side, on the federal side. They would do away with elections. I mean, or change it radically so that the opposition party doesn't win. Like make it harder for them to win. Don't let them have the advantage since they're in power. But I think they would have done away with the elections. Steve Bannon, they had a plan. You look it up, folks. You research this. They had a plan. Do away with the elections once they get in 2020. So they tried so hard to overturn the results of the election. Jill Stein's right on all these things, but the main factor is Trump. I think DeSantis is terrible too. But I don't think he'll do the same thing. I think he believes in democracy. Believe it or not, I could be wrong. But he looked like a fascist too. Trump's worse. But at least DeSantis is he's actually a smarter guy than he's a smarter guy than Trump. But Trump is he's a moron and he's a maniac. And he will get us into war. You think Trump is not gonna go to war? He might get out of Ukraine, but look at Afghanistan. He couldn't get out of Afghanistan. When Biden came in, they got out of Afghanistan. And he wanted to start a war with. He almost did with Iran. Plus, he wanted to start a war with China. When he lost the election, he wanted to start a war with. Some say he wanted to start a war with China. Involve nuclear. And that he was stopped. I guess by his what do you call it, Steve, the chief of staff. I think they stopped him, or they convinced him not to start a war with China. Everybody forgets that. And this guy's a maniac. He's not what you think it is. And this guy's not a piece. And the drone strikes he's done. He's done far more drone strikes than Biden and Obama and Bush. So this guy's not a piece, so-called anti-war. He's not, folks. It's kind of not misleading, but it's not, I guess it's misleading to think that he's the same as Biden. It's not critical. It's not good thinking. It's not critical. It's not using critical thinking in a way. I'm sure Biden's done, and plus Biden. You know why Biden is so bad? He kept some of the Trump, or 1/4 of Trump's policies he kept. If you looked at it, and his brilliant against China, Trump kept that. Biden kept that. So and it's his border policy. He's kept some of Trump's border policy. And there's no such thing there's no open borders. And that's a lie, and Biden bought into that. Although he's rolled back some of his policy, but he kept a quarter of it, maybe half of it he kept. but I think but clearly he's a lesser evil because of Trump. If Trump wasn't, well, see, if Trump gets arrested or whatever, who knows? But I don't know, he's not going to get indicted. If he gets arrested, if he gets put in jail, it's not going to be, by that time, he's going to be president. It's going to create another controversial constitutional thing. But if he gets indicted, I mean, he's already dead, but he gets arrested, he gets put in jail, tried and put in jail. He's going to be, as a president, you think he's going to go to jail? The thing is, if he goes to jail before the election, and somebody takes over from the GOP, and then you could say, that they're the same. Although the thing is, the Republicans are still worse, and on the social issues, they're still far worse. But in terms of economic issues, they're the same. They're exactly the same. So she's right. Economics and the environment are the same. So far, they're actually the same. And so they're not the lesser of evil in that sense. But for Donald Trump, he's the X factor in this. Okay, folks, that's it for this video. This has been too long for my taste. I'm out.